please join me in welcoming the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Hello, everyone. Oh, what a great gathering. Now, some of you may think it's a little chilly out there. I'm from Buffalo. We don't even wear coats. It's so great to be joined by my friends, my partners in government. Senator John Liu, who you'll be hearing from, is an extraordinary leader. He represents this area with such heart and passion. I want to thank him for everything he does. Also, Assemblymember Grace Lee, a dear, dear friend who's just working so hard representing the families of her district in Albany and here as well. So I want to thank all of you. I happen to see our borough president is here, Donovan Richards. Thank you for all you do. And other elected officials who joined us today. We're here for a special reason. From the very beginning of our time, 250 years, New York has always been that place that people come to in search of a new beginning. And Statue of Liberty stands in our harbor as a reminder of that promise. And some have come since the 1800s, many. They came to work on transformational projects like the railroad. Others came to work in the factories and farms. And very few come here with an easy life. Not unlike my very impoverished grandparents who left even greater poverty in Ireland, but in search of a new life, they became migrant farm workers and domestic servants and others before they were able to move up in life, which has always been the promise of America. And I want to honor those stories. And I don't feel that they've all been fully represented. And young people who go to school in search of some validation that their heritage, their story also matters in the story of America. And we want to change that. We want to let them know we believe they have value as well. And I was focusing on the fact that a young writer felt, or someone who was quoted an article, a student said that she felt that when she was learning in school, she felt like she had never really been accepted, a little bit of a stranger in her own country. And I want to erase that. I want everyone who lives in the great state of New York to feel part of a very vibrant, special family. And how we can start to change that is in our schools and getting other students to learn the stories of each other and to appreciate that and to value that and to grow up as adults who embrace that. That's why we're here today. And I believe it's important for every child to see themselves and their stories in our education. And the youth must learn the stories of everyone, the great accomplishments, the struggles. There have been a lot of struggles. And let young people know that they're on the shoulders of others who came here before them and struggled. And therefore, hopefully their life is a little bit better. But they also have an obligation to make life better for the next generation as well. So it goes on. The stories continue. The great traditions, honoring and keeping those. Back in 2024, we announced the AAPI Commission, charging people throughout the state to make sure that we're honoring celebrations and the Lunar New Year celebrations, and so families could finally be together on this very special, special occasion. So we've done some of these important initiatives, and our leaders have brought them to my attention. But what we want to do now is to direct the State Education Department to survey how AANHPI history is taught. You can't solve a problem until you study it, right? You have to understand, is it being taught? Is it not being taught? How is it being taught if it is referenced even at all? And that's what we're going to do. And we want to focus on getting data that points the way toward a more inclusive education for our students here. And that's how we're going to build classrooms where students do feel valued and understand the full story of where they come from, but also the stories of their fellow classmates. And again, I think that's what's going to start driving down some of the discrimination and the acts of hatred that some are subjected to. And we saw some of this really rise up in the Asian community in particular during the pandemic. There's a lot of talk about where the pandemic originated, and that resulted in terrible, terrible discrimination, people being injured on subways, and just so painful. And people were fearful to even let their kids go out or their grandparents walk down the streets, go to a doctor's appointment or see family. I want to vanquish that era and say no hate. Our state has no place for hate. And we can start by making sure that the children who come to our schools with fresh, open hearts, no child is born with prejudice or hatred in their heart. It's learned, but it doesn't have to be learned. It does not have to be learned. And we start our young people at an early age, educating them, making them appreciate all the great diversity that is known in New York. And I guarantee our state will be healthier and better, more inclusive, and more full of love in the long run. That's why we're here today. Thank you, everybody. Let me bring up Senator John Liu, a great champion of this legislation. Senator Liu.
Thank you, Madam Governor. I am so delighted and honored to be with you this afternoon. I want to thank all the advocates and leaders who have joined us today. The governor spoke, pretty much said all I need to say. To be very brief, seriously. It was actually, for a while, we were really dismayed that our community has been so invisible. And then the last few years happened with this global pandemic, and it was like, actually, it wasn't so bad to be invisible, because far beyond invisible, we became the target of the worst hate that I ever imagined and have seen. And so this is what this bill is about. It's about putting us on the map. It's about allowing future generations of New Yorkers and Americans to understand that Asian Americans, we've been here for 150 years. There is no American history without Asian American history. Yes. And so that is what we're talking about here. And people, when they need to find somebody to blame, whether it's for economic turmoil, global conflict, a worldwide pandemic, it's so much easier to blame people that you just don't understand. And for too long, people didn't know anything about Asian Americans. We're here to change that. This legislation will put us on a path towards allowing future generations, and hopefully current generations as well, when they listen to their children, to understand that we are here. Asian American, Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiians are here, and we're a part of history as well. Education is the only way that we're going to eradicate the hate and bigotry, because hate and bigotry is caused by ignorance and fear, and we have to get at the root causes. So I'm so ecstatic that the governor is signing this. She's always been on our side. This is not a new issue for her. In fact, it was several years ago, Madam Governor, that Stefan Kim of WABC-TV, he interviewed you. He asked you if such legislation was passed by the legislature, would you sign it? Without hesitation, Governor Kathy Hochul said, yes, I would. And that's exactly what she's doing today. And so I want to thank her. I want to thank our leaders here. I see many people, many members of the REACH Coalition that lobbied legislators in Albany, came up many times, contacted offices, emailed. I want to give a special shout out to the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families. They've been a leader behind this movement from day zero. And I also want to thank my colleague in the State Assembly. She keeps me super busy, constantly telling me what to do, and then I have to do them. So thank you, Grace, for your leadership, and of course, Donovan Richards, our great borough president, and Councilmember Julie Won. Thank you very much for joining us. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the incomparable, the inimitable, the indefatigable, sometimes incorrigible, Grace Lee.
Well, thank you, Senator Liu. To be called indefatigable by this guy who runs a marathon every month to train for his Ironman is pretty impressive. I am also just really excited to be here today with so many of you who have fought so hard in Albany to get this work done. One of the most memorable moments I had in Albany since I started is running into a group of Asian American teenager high schoolers from New York City who were cutting class to lobby for inclusive curricula. And that's saying a lot for an Asian American to be cutting class. I will tell you, their parents were probably not happy that they were in Albany. But they spoke really passionately about what it would mean to see their histories reflected in the classroom, to learn about the struggles, contributions and stories of Asian Americans as part of the greater American narrative. And this bill, the AANHPI Education Equity Act, is inspired by them and all of the advocates here in this room and across New York who have demanded a more inclusive curriculum. As Senator Liu said, we have built this country for generations, yet our history has too often been ignored, marginalized, or erased. And when entire communities are left out of textbooks, it sends a message about who belongs and whose story is worth telling. Like many Asian Americans, I grew up with people asking me, no, where are you really from? And from here. I mean, this is the only country that I've ever known. But I learned very early on what it feels like to have my belonging questioned. And now, as a mom of 3 daughters, I have them here with me to witness the bill signing today. I want them and all children in New York to grow up knowing that their identities are not footnotes, that they never have to question whether they are seen or valued. And, you know, right now we are seeing deliberate efforts across the country to restrict what can be taught in our classrooms. Entire communities are being pushed into the margins, and their histories are treated as optional. And in response to that, we have the power to choose something different, to choose to remember, to teach, and to affirm belonging. And that's what we're doing today with this bill. Because we remember people like Wong Kim Ark, who went to the Supreme Court to affirm a fundamental truth, that children born in this country are citizens, regardless of their parents' nationality. We remember people like Fred Korematsu, who resisted the incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II, the same law that is being used today to incarcerate immigrants. And at a moment when anti-Asian hate is on the rise and civil rights are under attack, we cannot allow fear or revisionism to dictate what children learn. Education remains one of our most powerful tools against hate. So when we teach the truth, we build understanding. And when we reflect all of our histories, we create belonging. So I want to thank Governor Hochul again. Thank you so much for signing this bill. And also taking the time to celebrate this incredibly and significant moment for our community and for being a great champion. Apart from the AAPI Commission, you know, she helped sign into law the Lunar New Year bill, making Lunar New Year a statewide school holiday. Yeah. Diwali, a New York City holiday. Yeah. And year after year, putting record funding in the budget for Asian American serving organizations like the one we're standing in today. And this couldn't have been done without all of the people in this room who helped build this movement for an inclusive curriculum. So I want to thank all of you. And I want to thank my partner in Albany, Senator John Liu. Thank you for your leadership and mentorship for helping to make this happen. Let's sign the bill.
The bill is signed.
Looking right here for a moment.
This bill is about putting our community on the map. It's about making sure it's one step closer to ensuring that all of the schools in New York State teach about the Asian American experience, Asian American history. We need to make sure that young people, generations of school children, understand our history, because if they don't understand the Asian American community, then not only are we invisible, but we get targeted and scapegoated for everything that goes wrong. It's always easy to blame people you don't know a whole lot about. So that's why we need all school kids and all future generations to understand what Asian Americans have done for this country and why we're a part of history. This legislation was made possible because of a broad coalition, the REACH Coalition. You're a member of the REACH Coalition. So many people from across New York City and New York State lobbied legislators, lobbied the governor to make sure that this bill was signed. And this is, it's not the end. This is actually just the beginning of many, many more efforts to ensure that people understand what our Asian American community is about, and ultimately to eradicate the hate and bigotry that we have too often experienced.
How many? I don't know. I'm skipping. I'm skipping a whole bunch. All right, skipping. All right. And anything else you'd like to share with the community?
Richard in is great, and Dami is number one. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Go talk to Grace. You got other questions for her.
Well, I'm really excited about this bill. It's going to pave the way for inclusive curriculum in New York State to make sure that Asian American stories are heard in classrooms, that our children are seen in their textbooks, and that our communities are visible now, finally, in New York State.
And so what do you see to be the next steps for community, for advocates, for legislators like yourself, as now the survey is going to be implemented, what are the next steps that the community should expect, and that how we can rally behind making sure this education curriculum gets made one way or another?
Well, that's a great question. As the governor said, data is everything. We need to understand how curriculum is currently being taught in New York State schools. So we're going to be fighting for funding in this year's budget for a survey that helps to funds the survey, funds data, so we can better understand the curriculum that's currently being used across New York State, and then additional funding for an advisory committee to provide recommendations to improve our AANHPI inclusive curriculum across New York State.
That's wonderful. And just to close out, any messages for the community as we wrap up the year and getting ready to start up the new year? Any messages?
Well, I am really inspired by all the young people who were involved in this movement because they wanted to see themselves and their histories told in textbooks. And I feel really excited about this movement and the energy from young people getting involved in politics, fighting to make a change. This is how our community is going to continue to rise, going to continue to be visible and seen in New York State. So, Sehe Bok Mani Badesea. Happy New Year to everyone, but also really excited for the future and what we'll be able to do as a community together.
Hi, I'm Anita, co-ED of CACF. We are co-leads and co-founders of the REACH Coalition that advocated for this bill, AANHPI Education Equity Act, which is really important to getting curriculum in schools, getting our students' histories, their struggles, a lot of our community's history into curriculum, and making our communities visible. Combating the hate that we've faced for generations, making sure people know that we are integral for in this country's history as well as its future.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I am a junior at Cornell. I'm part of the REACH Coalition as a student. I've been working with the REACH Coalition since I was a senior in high school and continue to do this work. I'm really excited about this bill because I believe that we need to collect meaningful data that gives us more transparency around how Asian American history is being taught in our classrooms, especially as a child of Vietnamese refugees. I didn't grow up learning much about the Vietnam War through the perspectives of Vietnamese refugees or the Khmer Rouge or other histories related to the Southeast Asian diaspora. So today is really meaningful and in the first step towards having Asian American curriculum in New York State schools.
Hello, my name is Connie, and I'm a freshman at Boston University. I've been involved with the REACH Coalition since my second year in high school, and this bill is really meaningful to our communities, just like what Jonathan said. We really crucially need this data in order to reflect how Asian American education is currently taught within the New York State public education system as a whole, and this bill will greatly help us process as well as push forward with increasing the amount of curriculum awareness as a whole.
Hi, my name is Aiden Wu. I'm from Westchester, New York, and And I think today's bill signing is really important because it's a big step for Asian Americans and more Asian American representation in schools. I think this is really important for the progress of Asian Americans, and I think this will have really good impacts on for inclusive curriculum and just the overall more diversity and knowledge about AAPI history.
Hi everybody, my name is Clarissa. I'm here with Localized History Project. We've really been grateful to be a part of REACH and all of the efforts to fight for inclusive AANHPI curricula. This is a really important bill because we deserve representation here, and we need to be represented within our classrooms and see ourselves empowered both in and outside of school. So thank you very much. We're very excited to be here today advocating for inclusive curricula.
We've been advocating for AANHPI education curriculum bills for a very long time, and today is a very momentous day where we got the survey bill finally signed into law. The survey bill is going to examine whether or not the AANHPI education is being taught throughout the schools. Now, we kind of already feel like we know the answer, but we still need the actual survey and the data in order to go forward with legislation and other policies that the government needs to take. So this is fact-driven, this is data-driven, and we're very excited for this passage. This is like a wonderful end-of-year gift to the community. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next year.